Hey, my name BeeKayy. I'm gonna try something different today. Well, not different, but it's yeah. Let's see if we can let a few people come in or something. Just yeah. I might even yep. I'm also gonna even use the cards to help get my words in order. All right. Nobody came in the chat. That is okay. So I'm trying to make this quick. And yeah, I'm trying to make this quick. There's a lot of information to touch on though. So let's see what's first. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. So this is gonna be an astrology video. That's the plan. That's the whole intention and motive behind things. I wanted to explain a little bit two things. The 11th house, which is pretty good and pretty important, and also stelliums. I'm gonna touch on stelliums first because I feel like even though it's more varied, it's a little easier to explain. And then also, I'm probably gonna come back around to that towards the end of the video because I kind of want to touch on each of the different signs and having a stellium in that sign. I would do also the houses, but that's a very long video. So a stellium, right? I mentioned it a few times in some of my other videos. You should check out those previous videos, especially my first ones. The first videos I uploaded. It seems like those are the ones with the most like information so far, or the most like action packed informational expository type like videos. Yeah, most of the stuff about psychic abilities and spirit and stuff like that is in my recent my older videos, formerly posted videos. Okay, and so um actually, yeah, we're gonna touch on the 11th house first because that's what just came out. So the 11th house, right? Okay, so astrology basics, right? There's 12 signs, right? Aries to Pisces. That's the order. Excuse me. And beyond just the 12 signs, if you're new to studying astrology, um, this is this is just something to keep in mind. So for every sign, there's also a corresponding area of life or area of expertise or just like holding area for that type of specific energy. So with each sign being its own specific thing with specific characteristics, each house is basically the area of space or situations that um, align and resonate with that same energy, right? So there's an Aries house, a Taurus, a Gemini, and so on and so forth, right? So I wanted to touch on today the 11th house. The 11th house is the space area or designation of energies dealing with networks, friends, goals, enemies, kind of, sort of in a way. There are two main houses in astrology that tell you about your enemies, and that's like the seventh and the 12th. The seventh being your shadow side, your inner self, your dark side, your other side, alter ego, whatever you want to call it. Um, because our first house, our ascendant, rising sign is how we look physically, our first impression, vibes that we give off, and the situations that we find ourselves in throughout life. And on the flip side of that same energy, other side of the coin, is the seventh house being ruled by Libra and representing um, things coming together, cooperation, scales, balance, fairness, all of those things, relationships with people, and connecting on a mental level and things and whatnot. So that part of yourself, that area of your life, those spaces and situations and people that you tend to bring in are usually just like you, but very opposite, like the same energy but flipped on the other side of the coin type things. And one of the other things that the seventh house represents is open enemies, or people that are opposing forces, or areas of chaos and conflict that are very apparent. Like, even it be it's not for you because it's quite literally the opposite of you. Like, if you're like, for instance, I'm a Pisces rising, so my inner self, my dark side, my shadow self, my other half type of energies is very Virgoan, um, meaning like Mother Nature, meaning very mercurial, or quick paced and smart, but also grounded down to earth and constantly moving. I also have my Chiron in retrograde placed there, so it's interesting. And then I don't have a Libra house in certain forms and interpretations of astrology. I don't have an Aries or a Libra house. So those areas of life are either completely embodied within me internally, and just something I naturally exude. Aries being aggression, power, passion, and Libra being fairness, charm, and tact. But the 11th house, or kind of represents enemies that you don't know are enemies, or maybe, or at least it does for me in my life, and I just got confirmation that that is true, because the 11th house is the house naturally of Aquarius, which is enterprising, but is also like progressive. Um, it's the energy of Saturn and Uranus, but those energies together, which is quite a weird combination, because Uranus is like the energy of lightning. It's quick, it's fast, it's ever changing, and it's always doing exactly what you would never expect it to do. But Saturn is like sequential order, and the, like, I keep wanting to say institution, but like, it's protocols, it's tradition, it's the way things. It's like the status quo. So the status quo and the rules and regulations that always existed and never change, mixed with something that never stops changing, is always thinking ahead and never looks what it never looks how you think it would look or should look. So those two together, that's Aquarius, and that is the sign that represents the house. The 11th house of networking. Aquarians represent humanitarianism, and services that help all of humanity and the greater goods of all things. Um, so the 11th house is your goals, your dreams, your aspirations. It's those things that in your heart of hearts, you want to do, but not in an egotistical, egoic way. It's the things that you want to do, the services that you're willing to provide, and the philosophies and ideals that you have internally that you feel like would benefit the whole world, right? And so, with that being said, it's it's also the area of life, the sign, and the space of allowing yourself to connect to others, to be open minded, to uh, kind of like step out of yourself in like in an emotional type of way, because Aquarius is, even though they are considered the water bearer, the water carrier, the one who makes it rain, is still an air sign, right? So they're very detached and very logical within certain spaces. It's like a, okay, I would like to understand this feeling, but what else can we do while we're processing this feeling, right? And when you have placements, planets, major points, you know, associated with the 11th house, like for instance, you know, and we're going to touch on stelliums very soon, but I have a stellium here. My sun, consequently, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and some other things are here. And so I am kind of like my best self when I am in a non egotistical, not about me type of way, mind you, doing things to help others, like helping for the sake of helping, like altruism, like not martyrdom. Altruism is being a hero and doing what's right and fair and just because that's the way it should be. Martyrdom is more of a Pisces thing, and I am a Pisces rising. But martyrdom is throwing yourself on the bomb, is cutting off your own foot to get out of the trap, is like basically taking a L for the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one type of outlooks on life type things. And so it's important that, and this is a way to kind of do shadow work and heal your inner self, but it is important to cater to yourself by selflessly supporting, being there, helping, and being of service to others, and blending whatever, major energies in your natal chart or synastry or composite or transiting chart um, align with this house. Because when you have planets, placements, when you have things in a house, if it's not the natural home of that thing or that place, play or placement, it is basically like that thing, that placement is a tenant, a renter, and is just borrowing the space of this area in your life and the sign that it represents. So, like for instance, unless you had like Mars and the Aries in the first, Aries, Mars in Aries in the first house, right? If unless you have Mars in Aries in the first house, the first house being Aries, Aries being the first sign, and Mars being the planet that represents Aries, when they're unless they're all together, then those things are just borrowing space and adding energy to wherever they are, right? Okay. So it's important to not only, familiarize yourself with these each different area of life and what it means and how it applies to you, but also to blend that with both the planet and the sign to get this like this sum of energy that you can use to help support your life, right? And beyond that, just knowing yourself is always good. It helps you step lively and know, where your strengths and areas of growth lie, right? Okay, so that was the 11th house. So stelliums, and this is going to apply really a lot to a very large collective group of people. So I'm talking to basically like all of the 90s generation, the late 80s, and maybe the early 2000s. Um, because we are all like very touched with this intense energy of, oh, this is what you are. Well, let's make sure you know that by making it really, really, really apparent, right? I have a Capricorn stellium, meaning I'm very, very Capricorn. But a stellium, stellarium, stellanium, there are very, very, very many different variations of the same word. I use stellium because it's short. But a stellium is just when you have multiple planets in one sign or in one house or very close together. But it has to be at least three, is the general rule, right? So when you have at least three signs, I'm sorry, three planets or three major points in one sign or house, what that does is two things. It amplifies both that sign and the house and the corresponding house, but it also brings in the energy of the actual sign that it is and also that corresponding planet, right? So I'm very Capricorn, right? Because I have the sun, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Neptune, and Uranus all in Capricorn, but they're all in the 11th house, right? Networking, friends, business, getting out there and things, right? So all of my Capricorn placements are in the house of Aquarius, and my Saturn also lies in Aquarius. So I'm very Aquarius, but I'm also very Capricorn, right? But the sun is the energy of Leo. Venus is the energy of Libra and Taurus. Mercury is the energy of Gemini and Virgo. Mars is the energy of Aries and Scorpio. Uranus is the energy of Aquarius, and Neptune is the energy of Pisces, right? All of those things, all of those planets, all of those signs come together for me in both networking and friends and also in Capricorn. So being moody, being quiet, being reserved, having it together, being a very steadfast, determined, feet on the ground, reliable, dependable type of person. I'm all of those things, but intensely in a lot of ways because all of those things are being, juiced up with the energy of the other planets and signs associated. And then with me being a Pisces rising, that means my whole chart is ruled by the planet Neptune. And with Neptune in my Capricorn, I'm very Pisces and also very Capricorn, right? So I'm just gonna go through real quick. This is gonna like kind of be the end of it. Just gonna go through real quick and give you a couple words each for each of the signs if you just so happen to have a stellium in that sign or in that house. So shout outs to all of those Capricorn stelliums just like me who have 3 to 5 to 6 planets all in Capricorn because we out here Cappy Cappy goat, right? Anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna just go through the 12 real quick. Well, 24, but each sign, like I said, because each sign has a corresponding house and planet or planets, is all kind of similar energy, but depending on which one it is, the sign, the house, or the planet, it's a different it's a different like phase. It's a different state of that energy. You know how like water has like four states? The energy is the same energy, but it just might appear different, right? So if you have a stellium in Aries or the first house or Mars associated with your stellium, that brings a passion and aggression, an intense energy of almost like confrontation and competition to everything you do and everything about you. So you might be a person who is like um, too much to handle a lot of times. Almost wanted to say on the run, but always like moving, right? If you have a stellium in Taurus, you are somewhat reserved, very, very materialistic, and possibly hedonistic, meaning, hedonism is basically just like really, really loving the pleasures of life, kind of being lazy because you always like just want to be pampered in things, the loving the luxurious, lavish things of life. That's Taurus, right? And it's also a very slow sign. It's a very contemplative sign. It's a sign that only moves if it wants to, right? So if you have a stellium in Taurus, there's probably a lot of stagnancy in your life or things that you hold on to that probably need to be let go of. Like you probably hold on to grudges, feelings, and material things for way longer than you should, right? If you have a stellium in Gemini, that is a very fast-paced, intellectual, quick-moving, and um, here and there type of sign, or in the third house, or associated with the planet Mercury, right? So if you have a stellium this way, then you're probably a very fast person. You probably talk fast. You probably have a lot of friends, cousins, siblings. Um, you probably move a lot, from place to place, like kind of nomadic in a sort of type of ways. You might also study a lot. You might just know a lot of things. You might be very, very good at communication, right? If you have a stellium in Cancer, can, if you have a stellium in Cancer, the fourth house or associated with the moon, right? Then you are probably very, very sensitive, very emotional, very intuitive, but also very reserved emotionally. Like you probably, um, it's probably very easy for you to point out and spot feelings and understand vibes and energies and like how the situation is flowing and things. But you're also probably very secretive, very moody, and can be a little clingy. So if you have a stellium here, it's it's an energy of it's like a very like step on the crack, break your mother's back, like superstitious, very superstitious type of thing. You also, like Taurus, may hold on to things for way longer than you should, but this is more so thoughts, emotions, um, sensations type of thing. You're also probably very good at nurturing house, home, cooking. You probably love to eat, travel, be on the waters, things like that. If you have a stellium in Leo associated with the sun or in the fifth house, you are probably very radiant, generous, magnetic, um, thrilling, attention seeking, and flamboyant, right? It's an energy of children, love at first sight, house at home, being happy, and work, things you enjoy, and fun, like parties. So if you have a stellium here, this isn't something that this is an area or point in your life or something about you that draws a lot of attention or that you have to focus a lot of attention on or that requires a lot of affirming and um, building up for you to really tap into that energy. It's a very dominant energy, but also it's a very sensitive energy in the fact that it's like a flame. So like with if you have a stellium here, and depending what's in it, it's either always on or always off, and it requires a lot of energy to switch it either way, right? So if you have a stellium in Virgo, the sixth house, or associated with Mercury, then you are probably very meticulous, analytical, maybe like OCD a little bit, maybe a little judgy, hardworking, very masterful, like manipulative, very, very down to the details and organized, right? Um, it represents Mother Nature and like like boss type energy, things of that nature, right? And so if you have a stellium here, you might be very, this is an area that you know might have a lot of opinions about. You might be very opinionated, or it could be a thing where like um you're just very smart, very studious. Like you'll take the time to do the work, learn the lessons, and get things done in a type of way where like it doesn't draw attention as much as like Leo stelliums would, but it's something that requires a lot of maintenance, right? And so it's also something that once you get it going and you know kind of like sort it out and get things how they're supposed to be, then it works very well for you. It works in your favor, right? If you have a stellium in the seventh house, associated with Venus or in Libra, right? You might be very charming, very politically correct, very indecisive, and maybe a little codependent. Um, so if you have a stellium here, this is an area where it really requires both effort from you and possibly another person or an outside source of energy to really like accomplish things, determine things, discern things, possibly. Also, though, Libra is a sign of diplomacy, of like saying the right things at the right time, and it's an air sign too, so it's also like very much so the energy of like mentality, of telepathy, of like understanding, but understanding from like a surface level, being able to see exactly what something is, exactly for what it is, based on how it is on the outside. So if you have a stellium here, this is probably an area of your life that you bring a lot of beauty to. Um, it's probably something that feels or looks or seems effortless that makes you like just be like, oh, I don't know what you're doing and how you did it, but you look good doing it. You sound good saying it, and like, what else can we accomplish in things, right? And it's probably also an area in your life where you kind of have things together, like kind of but halfway. But then again, like I said, it takes an outside source of something else to kind of confirm things or like give you that attention or really give you that alternate perspective of, okay, here's the other half, here's the other side, or here's the down to earth, like what we can actually do and put your feet on the ground and get things moving type of things. So if you have a stellium here, it's probably going to be something that you really have to kind of like be patient with. Yeah. If you have a stellium in the eighth house associated with Mars or Pluto or the sign of Scorpio, right? That means that you might be very alluring, sexual, secretive, um, psychic, discerning, a little uh, paranoid. Yeah, very paranoid. And very, very intense, mysterious and intense. Very also sensitive in like a moody type of way, like, but also in a way because the eighth house represents things seen and unseen. Scorpio represents death, sex, and transformation, and Pluto represents the underworld, where Mars represents the battlefield, right? So if you have a stellium here, it's a very it can be scary, it can be intense, dramatic, it can bring in a lot of hurt, pain, and trauma, but also it's an area of your life where after so many transformations, you start to see the beauty in both life and death and change and consistency, right? But at the same time, it's something that you have to kind of, it's like having a stellium, okay, yeah, having a stellium in Scorpio, because this is what I heard and kind of seen, is like this stellium would kind of be like a hole, like a rabbit hole, like you are Alice, and if you have a stellium in this area, then this is you in the middle of the rabbit hole, just falling, going down the hole, but also into the light and seeing the light at the same time. It's a very it's weird, but you, for the girls who get it, they get it, and the ones who don't, right? So yeah, if you have a stellium in the ninth house associated with the planet Jupiter or in Sagittarius, right? You might be a person who really values freedom, learning philosophy and your own beliefs or the beliefs of people who you believe to be smarter than you, but also traveling, fun, and enthusiasm, right? So if you have a stellium here, this is probably something that you're always constantly like thinking about working on or trying to learn new things about, right? It's also probably an area where it takes you to a lot of different places. Um, the psychic ability of Sagittarius is inspiration and also divine timing. So this might be an area where you find yourself to be very lucky. Like you just show up at the right time in places to always have exactly what you need, or it might be an area in your life where you may need to bring attention to in like containing a little bit. Um, Sagittarius abhors, I don't like the word hate. Sagittarius really does not like restrictions, being told what to do, and having any type of um, outside authority trying to control and have sovereignty over their lives. They feel like that's a death sentence, and being tied down is the worst thing that can happen in life. So this might be an area where like you feel like you're always learning something or you know everything about, like you either are this, you feel like either a student or a master in this area, and either way, like it's kind of magical in the fact that you might be okay. If you have a stellium here, you have to watch out for things like narcissism, possession, abuse, and dictatorship and domineering things, because it's it's hard to be wrong in this area because a lot of times you're right, but it's also important to know that you don't know everything and you're not always right, right? Right. If you have a stellium in the 10th house associated with the planet Saturn or in the sign of Capricorn, right? This is an area or part of you or things in your life that take a long time to really come together, culminate, and manifest, right? But it's an area that has lots and lots of gains, but only if you do things the right way, in the right order, and the way that it's supposed to be. Right? It's a very uphill battle type of sign where like you always see your goal and you know the steps involved, but it's always harder than it looks once you actually get into it. And there's a lot that you have to unlearn and relearn and have experiences with and um, learn how to operate within certain parameters, right? But in doing that, you become really like a master, a builder. Like in the tarot, that would be like the magician, somebody who knows what they have and what they need to do and how to get it and how to put it together, and also what outside of themselves they need or can accomplish or want or can do, right? So this is something really, if you have this stellium, as like I do, it's an area where there are a lot of challenges, but also a lot of rewards, but everything in due time, right? If you have a stellium in the 11th house associated with the planet Uranus or Uranus, however you want to say it, or in the sign of Aquarius, you are a very unique, off off the cuff, out of the ordinary, unique genius. I say unique twice. I mean special. Very different type of energy. Um, if you have this stellium, you probably change your mind, either change your mind a lot or are very, very firm in your beliefs and thoughts. Aquarius is a fixed sign and it's an air sign. It's the sign of um, like the law of attraction, like bringing things in, like the astral realm, and really kind of like beliefs, the beliefs that you hang on to and never let go of, right? So if you have this stellium, you probably dress very differently from the people around you. You probably think very differently from the people around you, but you're probably always like a few steps ahead of most others because you don't know how you know it, but you know it, and you just know that you know it, and you can't unknow it now, right? It's an area where if you have the stellium, you feel most at home being in a group where everybody is different and doing different things, but also you get to do your own thing, and your thing helps everybody else's thing, and vice versa, and just everybody doing their thing but being together makes everybody better together, right? This is probably an area where you have a lot of associations or networks or build a lot of bridges and things. You probably um, read a lot, and once you learn something, it stuck with you, and you would like to teach others or do services for others involving these new things that you learned. You probably may be described as a know-it-all or um, a chatterbox, maybe. Like Virgo, you're probably always on the move, but also like Aquarius, like Libra, you are Aquarius. Like Libra, you probably need help from others seeing things differently than how you already see them. But it's also, if you have this stellium, important for you to realize that you are you and there's nobody like you. And the best thing that you can do for you is to be authentically you and nobody else, right? It's something that you have to learn to love, accept, and embrace. And once you do, the whole stellium kind of lights up, right? And then last but not leastly, if you have a stellium in the 12th house, associated with the planet Neptune or the sign of Pisces, I am sorry. You might be very otherworldly, very dreamy, very bubbly, very kind, very empathetic, very sensitive. Um, might be very nurturing. This is the sign of the martyrdom. This is the sign of the hero who sacrifices their life so that everybody else can live. Right? This is the if you have this stellium, you are Jack, right? And the rest of the world is Anna, and she pushed you off the boat, off the little wood. Yep. If you have this stellium, you are probably more than likely very, very like not scattered, but very like here and there, like you're always here, but you're always kind of not. You're um very different in the way that you operate in a way that's very like old soully. Like you do things that probably were very relevant a long time ago and probably are even more so relevant today, but people have learned to live a different life. You probably see things a lot differently than most people. You probably like to beautify things. You probably, if you have this stellium, always like can kind of sense the vibe, the knowing, or the feeling of something. Um, you might have very, very vivid dreams, get like a divine inspiration in like seeing physical things here and seeing the spirit behind those physical things. Um, if you have this stellium, you might be very, very gifted with the spiritual things, you know, the clairs, the psychokineses, things like that. You might be very powerful in the sense that everything around you looks easy because you're using mostly energy, intangible, invisible forces around you instead of physical. So things just kind of happen. If you have this stellium, there's probably been a lot of paranormal activity in your life, and you've probably seen both lots of beautiful things like love and rainbows and cooperation and machines operating how they're supposed to and things. But you've probably also seen really, really bad things like abuse and war and death and things of that nature. But you're probably one who, like Libra, tries to remain balanced at all time and are very sensitive to the things around you, like environments, places, things, people. And if those things around you are putting off bad vibes, then it can kind of internally mess with your vibe and kind of alter your energy. I just saw like in my head like when you put like food coloring in water and the water is still water, but you can't take the food coloring out and the whole thing is different now. So you probably change a lot. This is probably an area in your life or about you that is very chameleon like, that's always adapting and changing for the situation at hand, and probably an area where you need to learn to set firm boundaries because even though you can do everything and are very helpful, you need to know who to let into your life, what to do, and when the right time is for certain things to happen. And to it, and also like if you have the stellium, you are very kind of go with the flow or need to be more go with the flow and understanding that everything happens the way it happens and it's supposed to happen, and you are just you and be amazing. But that's it that I have for right now. I think I'm gonna go. Just seeing 4444 and a thank you. And my name BeeKayy. I would love to connect with you more. Continue watching. I am always posting new content, and subscribe and hit that like button because that helps out for my channel and the analytics. and would, and also helps YouTube to personalize your YouTube channel and stream and app or website specifically for you, because it'll bring more things into your thing that you like. Also, comment down below. Let me know if this made sense or resonated with you. And just continue to be amazing. Yeah. Because my name BeeKayy. And that's all I know for right now. See you soon. Wait, is there anything else? Something about the stars, the astrology. Mars is doing something. Pluto is doing something. And Jupiter is doing something. We'll figure it out, and I'll talk to you in a minute about it.